Baby Ruby is a new psychological horror film that we watched. I think that's the best way to describe the genre. And this is about a French woman living in America, and she runs this blog that's fairly popular. And she is about to have a baby with her husband, played by Jon Snow himself, Kit Harington. And her life is amazing, and everything is wonderful. And then she has Ruby. Ruby comes into her life. Ruby Soho. And things start to spiral downward for her mental state and her life. This film is interesting because I do think, while, this film is definitely, it's written and directed by a woman. It's primarily a female-centric side of parenting and the baby experience. It deals very heavily with the theme of postpartum depression, and the fears of being a mother. And I think that it does all of that stuff very well. The story can get a tad confusing and muddled in moments, but I almost think that's by design to make the viewer more to kind of knock you off your film equilibrium.
Sure.
Where you're kind of off balance and like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, I think that this one is going to appeal to parents primarily, people who hate kids and have that kind of very negative outlook on children in general, and they'll use that, like, this kind of thing as an example while they're watching it. So I wouldn't want to have kids.
Sure.
I mean, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to give you shit for it. I think kids are wonderful. I think that everyone has a different experience. Yeah. This film exaggerates it to the nth degree. Kids are challenging, for sure, but they're also rewarding if you want that reward. Or if those rewards are appealing to you. The kind of rewards I get wouldn't be appealing to some people. They'd be like, that's it? That's the reward? Yeah, that's the reward. And I love it. You don't have to. So I think that this is going to be most geared towards mothers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this film primarily deals with the female experience of giving birth and mothering.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. And it's completely through that lens.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. And it's, it definitely freaked me out. I have not given birth, but I do have a pretty big fear of, like, the birthing process and in pregnancy. And I didn't think really that much about postpartum, but after seeing this movie, I now have, like, a kind of a whole nother thing to sort of consider, like, that, and I think the film, kind of does a interesting job at saying directly and indirectly, like, we don't really talk about that experience with motherhood that much. Like, it's taboo to talk about the postpartum experience and, like, feeling any kind of negativity towards your child.
Sure.
Because, of course, like, and the movie, like, so our main character, Josephine, there's so much cool imagery with her having, like, split, her personality kind of, like, fracturing and splitting.
Yeah.
And I think that, obviously that's the side, part of her is a loving mother, and then there's this other part of her that's terrified and just, like, angry and resentful and all these other feelings that are very, very negative that, are also probably pretty human to feel. And I'm sure that, I don't know how many women have those kinds of feelings, like, directly after having a child, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out that a good amount, not to that extreme, but sure, have that kind of feeling like your body's changed because of the kid. Like, you might still be the same person inside, but you have new responsibilities, and a lot of other stuff can change for you from having, kids. So I thought that was just interesting that the film addressed that topic. And I love movies with unreliable narrators, and this movie is very much that. I think that I didn't really know what was, like, who to trust or what was happening up until maybe the very end, and even the very end I still think has kind of the ability to be interpreted in a couple ways for
Sure.
sure. So I really loved that part of the movie. And yeah, I don't know. It's just if you don't like babies, I think this movie's gonna really freak you out because there's a lot of emphasis on like the crying and the repetition and like just the grating of the nerves that a young child can have. So
it'll greatly turn off some audiences for sure. The
yeah.
people who like, you know, have to make it part of their personality that they hate children. That person who goes to like every party and has to like boast that they don't have kids and how much they hate kids. They're just as annoying as the person who's like shoving pictures of their kids in your face every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And look, I have kids. Look, I'm a mother. I'm somebody. I'm important. Right? Like, there's a balance to everything. I get it. You don't like kids. I don't give a shit. Shut the fuck up.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So there's definitely those people who are going to hate this. And then there's going to be people who don't like to deal with that part of their psyche where maybe they kind of didn't like their kid for a minute.
Sure.
But dude, like, come on, guys. Like, I've been a father for 10 years. And there are times where I outright just do not like my children. It's just part of being a parent. I love my kids.
Human too, right?
Always.
Like, yeah.
I love my kids always.
Yeah.
But I don't like them sometimes. 100%. And sometimes you do. You have horrendous thoughts. If anybody hasn't had a horrendous thought towards their child, I'm not honestly sure. Maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe we're all crazy and that's the sane person. But that actually almost makes me question their sanity.
Well, yeah, because there's like, you know, intrusive thoughts I think are pretty normal. And like you can have so many intrusive thoughts and never act on them or anything. No,
you cannot act
because
on
your
them.
Thoughts aren't you necessarily, right?
No.
But
no, they're reactive.
Yeah, that's it. Like there's been so many times that even towards other kids, like just kids like out in public, like random children that you're just like, oh my god, yeah. But I would never do anything, you know, horrible to them. So yeah, I think that the film is, there's gonna be a good amount of people that are in that realm, like you're saying, that will just like not want to watch it at all.
Yeah, this film is very reminiscent of something like a Polanski film, like Rosemary's Baby, Repulsion, right? It's mostly a woman who's isolated, whether pregnant or with the child, and all of her fears are collapsing on her. She's becoming paranoid. She's, you know, telling her stories here, not trusting this person, a lot of doubt. And so it definitely goes for that Rosemary's Baby feel. Now, Rosemary's Baby is a film that I, historically hate and have always disliked, and I've watched it like 3 times. I cannot get into it for any reason. So for me personally, I enjoy this movie more. I know that's blasphemy to people who find that to be this classic, but we like what we like.
Yeah.
This movie, it just takes, I've always wanted to write a horror film based on my experience with anxiety, and my anxiety condition. And I want to be able to convey that feeling that I get whilst I'm in that anxiety-ridden state, be able to articulate it on screen in a way that resonates with people that may not have had that experience. And I think this film does a good job of, properly conveying to the audience those fears and those mental weaknesses that you can have while you are dealing with something so life-altering, something that is literally like a freaking leech that's just trying to take everything from you and give nothing in return, because it's not capable of, right? It's not doing it because it's selfish. It's doing it because it's helpless.
It's totally
right?
helpless. Yeah.
So that's a huge difference. But it does a very good job of showing you the darkest side of how bad this could be.
Yeah.
Now, with my own personal experience, my kids had their moments, but I never got to this level. This is like, dialed to 20. But there is, as I said, there are moments in the film, but this is mostly an unreliable narrator, and I do think this is what the director was trying to do, but there are moments where you're very like, huh, okay, wait, what? And there's a lot of really cool like jump cuts.
Yeah, I was just gonna say those shots.
and time anomalies.
Yeah.
Where you're like, wait, what? Where are we now?
Yeah.
And that's very disorienting,
Very.
and that's the point.
Yeah.
So I think the film is very successful at what it sets out to achieve, whether like it or not. And I think that's something that us as the audience has a very hard time disconnecting ourselves from. And I try my absolute best to always do is the director getting the vision on screen that they're trying to accomplish, or am I not liking the scene? Right? Like, you've got to be able to, you know, call balls and strikes when it comes to that within film. I do think that whatever I did or did not like, I think the director was able to accomplish everything she set out to accomplish. And I give her massive credit for that, because I can typically watch a film and be like, they went for something here, but they're not landing it. And I think they know they didn't land it. Like it didn't come together. But this movie feels like a coherent piece of art that she, you know, accomplished her goal. And for a first-time director, I think that's very impressive and telling for the future of her film career. So good on the director for being able to convey very difficult subject matter to the screen in a very digestible way that I was able to understand as a parent. So good on her for that. I do recommend the film if this does sound interesting to you, and it sounds, if you have a kid, or if you are opposed to kids, or even if you're not, and this sounds like an interesting watch to you, I'd say check it out. I think it's worth a view. I didn't love it, but I do respect it.
Yeah, and I think I agree with everything you were saying. I think that the anxieties and everything are visually translated really well. I enjoyed it. I like seeing, obviously, women in horror writing or directing. It's good to get like a uniquely female perspective. Obviously, parenthood, it goes, you know, has repercussions for both parties, but in this movie, at least in this story, it was definitely centered around the woman's experience, and I think it was just well done. I think that the actress did a great job too. I really enjoyed her performance. I really believed that she was falling apart and, like, you know, just kind of was on that roller coaster with her the whole time. And as you said, just disorienting and definitely unsettling. And there was a few times that were very jarring and like unexpected things happened that kind of made us laugh because they were so like just out of nowhere. But it was really well done, and yeah, I would recommend people watch it just to kind of see if it's, you know, I think it's, you say this pretty often, but I think you'll know if you are not into it within like the first maybe 15 minutes.
Sure.
Because the baby comes pretty quickly. So,
yeah, and beware the gaggle of moms.
Yeah, well, that's another part, right?
And their carriages.
Yeah, I really liked the juxtaposition between like a mom, you know, that's like struggling and is like,
perfect
all
moms
the
out there.
perfect moms, yeah.
It is. It's great contrast for like how you feel when you're like, I suck at this, and everyone else seems to be having no issues.
No
it's
issues.
Just a breeze
They're like,
to them.
this is fine. Like, I'm perfect and I look wonderful and like all this stuff.
This
and
is that like Instagram mom.
Yes, which is actually very interesting for her character because she is a blogger.
She's the Instagram woman.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like almost getting some karma
for
like rubbing her perfect life in everyone's face. Yeah. And now she's the one struggling looking at everyone else's perfect life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, good stuff there. Yeah. Good on them for that. That was funny. And yeah, really well done. Mm-hmm. I'm liking this more than maybe I'd let on by saying I didn't love it. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? I enjoyed it for sure. I love psychological horror, and I like when it's done like this because, like, as you were saying, you know, with your anxiety experience, there's so many different mental states that I think horror can explore, and it's just really fascinating to see different takes on those because, you know, even though I think a lot of people have similar you know, like when we have anxiety attacks, other people who have panic and anxiety attacks, like you can kind of relate and you know what they're feeling and everything, but it is unique for each person.
Sure.
So it's fun to see how film, you know, can
how the other half lives.
It. Yes.
And interprets things.
Yep.
All right. Let us know if you watch it.
Bye.
Bye.